If you clicked on this video, you may be at the point with your puppy training where you want to start giving them a little bit more freedom from their crate. You're a little bit concerned though, because you don't know if you're going to get this or this. In this video, we're going to talk about a checklist that we've created for you to help you transition your puppy out of their crate and into more freedom. What's really important here is that you understand the when and the how about how you're going to do that, because it can make a really big difference. So let's find out if your puppy's ready. I'm Ken Steep, and welcome back to McCann Dogs. Here on our YouTube channel, we publish videos every week to help you to overcome your puppy training challenges. So if this is your first time on the channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button so that I can help you to have a well-behaved four-legged family member.
So there's two aspects that you really need to focus on when you're getting to the point where you want to give your dog a bit more time out of their crate. And that is your dog ready for this type of freedom, and are you ready for this type of freedom? Now, when you're starting to wean off of the crate, it's a lot of work. And I find sometimes people just cold turkey, your dog hits a certain age and then boom, they're ready to work out of the crate. And then sometimes people actually just throw their crates away. And what you need to remember is that this is going to be a bit of a training process, and you need to be ready to, have some ups and downs and, move forward with your progressions. And then if you hit a bit of a road bump, your dog has an accident, they chew something, they're dogs, they're not going to be perfect. We need to be prepared to dial it back, maybe use a little bit more crate time to kind of get through that little hump of problems and then try it again. So it's very important that you understand that you need to be flexible so that you're going to have more success in the long run. So one of the first things you need to think about is, have you established a puppy-proof area in your house? And if you think about it from your puppy's perspective, there are temptations everywhere around the house. There was a really cute challenge going around social media not long ago where people would leave their dogs in a sit stay and then put treats on the floor and then leave the room for a couple seconds, and they would videotape to see whether their dogs would resist the temptation and grab the food off of the floor or not. And lots of dogs were successful. Lots of dogs were not. And if you sort of use that concept in your house, the same things happen. If you, leave your dog to go to work for the day or, to go out for a little bit, and you have, shoes, and you have, something thawing on the counter, and you leftover treats in your pockets from your training session the day before, those could potentially be temptations that your dog will have a hard time resisting in the beginning. Now, you're gonna have to live your entire life by, putting your shoes on the top shelf. No, but in the beginning, when you're trying to set your dog up to be successful, make sure that when you leave the area that you're going to give your dog freedom in, that you've puppy-proofed it a bit. Make sure that you've resisted, pick up all of those possible temptations to make it a much higher probability that your dog's not gonna make those poor choices. Now, the kitchen is actually a really good place to start when you're starting to test the waters and giving your dog a bit more freedom when you leave the house. The nice thing about a kitchen is that there's usually pretty clean surfaces. We can keep everything pretty elevated. Typically, you don't have carpet in here, so if they do have an accident, it's easy to clean up. But this is a great place to kind of begin seeing how things go. One of the things that we really like to do is to barricade the kitchen off so the dog can't just roam into other parts of the house while we're gone. They are sort of stationed to one particular location. And then we puppy-proof, as much as we possibly can. Things like this, like tea towels. Puppies love to jump up and grab tea towels. So initially, I might not leave this stuff around. I just might make it really simple. We have chew bones in our kitchen. I'm sure you guys have the same. But again, there's always access to chew things if they want to, but they're good things. There are things that they're supposed to chew, so they really learn what to touch and what not to touch. But kitchen is definitely one of the first places that I would start with. While your dog's in the kitchen and the area is sectioned off, it's a really good idea to still give your puppy access to the crate. I have my water over here, but I'm gonna leave the crate here with her bed. I might put her bone or her toys in there as well. And just leave the crate door open. She's already conditioned to go in there and rest while, I'm gone. So I wanna keep that option open to her if she decides that's where she's gonna be most comfortable. Now, the next thing to check off our list is, have you prepared your dog in order for you to leave the house? One of the things that we know about dogs is when they're properly mentally and physically stimulated, they're far less likely to give bad behavior. So if you're going to be going out for the day, make a special effort to maybe get up a little earlier that day, or go for a little bit of an extra walk, or maybe play some retrieve. Make sure that they've gotten enough exercise that they're happy just to lay down and chillax while you're gone for the day. The other thing to note is that, sometimes if you're leaving, it can be a little bit stressful for dogs if they're not used to it. So it's a really smart idea to give them something to think about or to focus on a few minutes before you leave. We like to start to introduce, things like peanut butter filled Kong or one of their favorite bones. And we would give that to our dogs before we leave, but there's a bit of a trick to it. What you don't want to do is give them the item and then leave directly, because a lot of really smart dogs will put two and two together. It's actually a much smarter idea to give your dog some type of item to distract them or to engage with them about 10, 15, even 20 minutes before you leave. That way your dog's sort of thinking about their bone, they're getting that peanut butter out of the Kong, and then you can quietly, without making it a big deal, just slip out the door and do your thing. Try not to make going and coming back a big deal for your dog. That can actually boost the dog's, attention or anxiety in some cases. So thorough exercise before you're going to leave them for a day, and then give them something to think about and do so that you leaving is not the main focus. Now, this might seem like an obvious one to you, but make sure that your dog has relieved themselves before you leave. Make sure that they've had a good pee and a good poo before you go. There's nothing less stressful than leaving the house for a day knowing that your dog hasn't gone to the bathroom. But exercise can actually help with that. Often if you go out and exercise your dog, walk your dog, they're much more likely to go to the bathroom. And that way, when you leave them for a few hours or whatever span of time that you're going to, you can feel comfortable and happy that they're going to feel the same while you're gone. Now, I've been referring to leaving your dog for, a few hours or for the day, but we certainly don't want to start that way. It's much better to test the waters with very short periods of time to make sure that things are going to be okay. You could start with something simple like, leaving your dog in, a confined, safe area while you, go grab the mail or go to the store and grab some milk, where you're going to be gone for only a couple minutes at a time. And then you're going to slowly build things from there, provided that you have success. It's just like training any other behavior. You're not going to, take your dog for an hour walk when you've not really mastered being able to walk for a couple seconds, or you're not going to leave your dog in a sit stay for, 5 minutes when you don't know if they could even stay for 2 seconds. So we need to build on success. The other thing that can be really helpful, and this is something that both Ken and I have done, is you can use a camera with your dog when you leave. So set up a camera. Lots of cameras you can get out there can actually attach to an app on your phone. So sometimes when we're first starting to get the dog comfortable with us leaving, we won't actually go anywhere. We'll just come and sit in the car for a second and check out what's happening on the app. So little baby shakes like just chewing her bone, being such a good girl. But this just gives us a really good indication on whether they're stressed, are they barking, are they going to get into stuff? And that way, if there is a problem, I can run inside and deal with it right away, or I can just sit here and be proud of my dog. So with regards to your dog being ready, there's probably one major thing that I would focus on first, and that is chewing. That's one of the number one things that happens when we start to leave our dogs out of their crate without supervision and maybe they're not ready. One of the most common things that we find dogs end up doing is chewing things in their house that they're not supposed to. We've even heard of dogs chewing, baseboards or renovating kitchens while people have gone out for the day. So, you want to make sure that if you're at home with your dog and you're able to have them out in the house, are they making good choices in your house in terms of chewing? Are they able to understand, whether the chew bone is something that they should touch, or whether they are chewing on the bed or the table leg? If you can't remember the last time that they've chewed something, or you had to tell them to leave something alone, that might be a good indication that you can start. But if you're still getting a little bit of chewing or stuff like that from time to time, might not be ready. Now, the second thing you want to ask yourself is, how good of a listener is your dog? Now, this is a bit of a sneaky one. It's not one that people really coordinate or correlate with crate training. So I want you to think about things in your house like, does your dog stop barking when you ask them to? Do they just generally hang out with you in the same room? Or are they off kind of doing their own thing and they're not really trying to make an effort to stick with you? How do they behave when people come to the door? Do they leave things when you ask them to? Are they still doing some nipping and biting at you or maybe your children in the house? These are all indications that your dog's probably not ready to be given a lot of extra freedom. We like to use the crate to control these scenarios so that when we can't supervise them and be right there to let them know that we like or dislike their behaviors, we need to crate them to make sure that they're not rehearsing those things when we can't watch them. So if you're still having a bit of behavioral issues, or you're having issues with your dog, maybe not listening as well as they could, I would suggest just waiting out and crating them a little bit longer until some of those behavioral problems are a little bit more solved. And the next one to know whether your dog is ready for a little bit more freedom out of their crate or not is, are they still having accidents in the house? Now, you've probably realized that using a crate can really fast track your house training issues, because you're able to watch them much more easily. You're able to direct them outside if you think they have to go to the bathroom. But at some point, the dog needs to be able to have a little bit more independence and understanding of how to actually either ask you to go outside or have the understanding of how to hold their bladder. Some people make the mistake of letting their puppy out like every half hour, and they don't actually teach their dog to eventually put onus on them to ask you. Now, when they're very young, it is a good idea to, get ahead of it and let the puppy out on a more regular basis. But as they start to get older, we would really recommend that you teach them to ask you when they have to go outside, and that's going to put a little bit more onus on them, and it's going to teach them to have a little bit more control over their bladder. That's going to be the next step to being able to trust that when they're out of their crate for longer periods of time, or maybe if you're going to leave, that they clearly understand that they're not to go to the washroom in the house. And so that one's really important to be established before you take the step of weaning off of the crate. You're so silly. Now, if you want to make sure that you can check off all the boxes that we've discussed today, we've actually put together a PDF checklist for you that's downloadable in the description below, so make sure you check that out. Remember, this is a training process. You don't have to be in a big rush to eliminate your crate from your everyday life with your dog. In fact, if your dog really loves it, there's no reason to get rid of it completely if that works for you and your family. Funky Monkey's 13 years old and she still loves to go in her crate, have a nap. She feels safe there. She really likes that. So it's not something that, I really want to take away from her. But it's all going to be personal preference, but you just need to make sure that before you make those decisions that you know that you're ready, and be prepared to backtrack if and when needed.
Now that your puppy's spending more time out of their crate, it's really important that you keep them engaged, to exercise their brain and their body when you're working with them. It can help you avoid some of those really annoying nuisance behaviors. Click that card right there. That'll give you tons of opportunities and tons of different exercises to work on with your puppy. If you're looking for a guided puppy training experience, make sure you click the link in the description below to our Puppy Essentials online training program, where you can work with one of us to make sure your puppy gets the best information possible. On that note, I'm Ken. Happy training.